The third video going over some of my adventures. Just going back and looking at Python. I'm using a site again called W3 Schools. I have some familiarity with Python. I've been through some training and I got a certification through Udemy a year or two ago. That being said, I haven't really used Python a whole lot, and sometimes it's just good to go back and get a quick refresher. And some things I didn't have time to go in depth as much as I would have liked. So I'm just at a point where I feel like I can get that done. So I think the last video I went over Python variables. So today I'm just going to go over variable types, or Python data types, I mean. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these. So for the most part, we're going to look at some built-in data types. It's good to understand the different types of data. So text, that's pretty much just a string. So if you want to put a name, integers, pretty much a whole number, float, decimal point. Complex, it's essentially, I'm not super familiar with it. I have not used it entirely. So hopefully I'll get a little more practice within this module. But it essentially allows you to just write a fairly, it's a simple variable, or it can be complex, but it has the letter J in it. I'll have to learn a little bit more about that one. So I have not used those a whole lot in particular, and I'm not a programmer by trade. Lists and tuples, they are fairly similar, except you're using some different styles to input the data. For lists, I think you're using the parentheses, and the tuples are going to use the brackets, or vice versa. I'll go down here and get a quick review. So actually, I want to say list, you're going to use the brackets. Tuples, you're going to use the parentheses. Range, that's just getting a range of numbers back. Dictionary, if you're just trying to remember something. I've not used set or frozen sets, although I know what sets of data are. We'll kind of go over that. Boolean, true, false. I've not really used bytes, arrays, or memory view within Python a whole lot, or none type. So some of it's kind of new, some of it's a refresher. Totally fine. So getting the data type, you can get the data type of any object by using the type function. So for instance, if I put this x equals 5, so if I want to see what type of data this is, I just put print, and then within parentheses, one here, one at the end, and then I'll put x. It would come back and tell me it's an integer, basically. So if I want to copy that, it should say int. So it's pretty much just a positive or negative number. So if I run that, class integer. So, okay. So these are the various data types. Now I'm not going to run through a whole bunch of them. I'll just give you a quick overview. So we know whole numbers are going to be integers. Decimals, as I mentioned, float. Complex, I've not really used it. There is an okay example in here, but the letter, or the number 1 and the letter J. Okay. Okay, and I think I remembered it. So the lists are going to have the brackets. The tuples are going to have the parentheses. So I think I was right when I switched it. If not, I'll get that part down. I don't use them a whole lot. The main difference is you can change out lists once you set them. You cannot, those are mutable. You cannot change out tuples once you create them. They are immutable. Range, that's just giving you a range of numbers back. Boolean is probably the next most useful one that you may use, or that I've used before. And I haven't used a lot of the other ones entirely, so I don't want to go down a path that I'm giving you some information I'm not completely aware of. Just be aware of them. That's the main thing. And then as you learn more about Python, you can go back and learn them a little bit more. Setting the specific data type. So if you're wanting to specify it up front, you can just put the phrase in front of it. So string, integer, float, complex, list. So that one will actually have 2 parentheses. And then tuple, if you just want to list it as a tuple, just write tuple in front of it. So that's a little different than up above, where if you don't list it, you have to use the brackets for list. Okay. Dictionary, set, Boolean, so things like that. That's pretty straightforward. The main thing, if you want to do this, is to just come down and take a quick look at some of the exercises. If I get one or two wrong, then that's just the way that'll go. Again, some of these I have not used entirely, but if you don't take a chance, then you're definitely not going to pick up on it. So let's take a look at this. X equals 5, what is the correct syntax for printing the data type of the variable? So for printing the data type, so we're going to put print and then type. Okay, let's just try some extra ones here. So again, my main point is I just want you to see how easy this is to kind of go through and learn some of this stuff. So again, I don't know why W3 Schools does that. The following code example would print the data type of X. What data type would that be? Should be an integer. Okay. String. So this part isn't really overly heavy in coding. It's just to get you familiar with it. So this should be a float. Okay, this is the one that's good. I'm going to go with a list on this one because it has the brackets. Tuple? Let's see. And we're getting there. I haven't got one wrong yet, so let's hope. This is where coding's interesting. Like, I can remember things, but I haven't really used them. So this is where you're really going through and even doing this isn't going to do you justice if you want to learn to code. So you got to get and actually start coding. So we'll get into that a little bit later. I'm just getting familiar, but that would be dictionary. Okay, the following code would be would print the data type X would be what kind of data. So this one would be Boolean. And it looks like they're just going to go over the first few as well. Yeah. So even some of the ones that I mentioned earlier below Boolean, I haven't used them a lot, and you may not either. They didn't really go over set, frozen set, bytes, byte array, and memory view. So just be aware, there's going to be some that you'll use a little bit more than others. So this concludes data types, and we'll pick up on numbers next.